the micromanager, controlling every detail, the absentee boss, the one who's never there, the credit stealer. They stand between their team and higher management when things are going right, and then they step clearly out of the way when things are going wrong. The nice manager. As far as they're concerned, it's just nicer when everyone gets along. These behaviours are not random. They're often symptoms of deeper organisational issues. No ideas equals no progress. No progress equals no relevance. No relevance equals no revenue. No revenue equals no business. All this is leadership debt. We need systems that build great managers, not just hope they emerge from somewhere. When we show that the quality of our work is the foundation for building quantity of work, leadership culture and behaviours shift to support that dynamic. These aren't just stories, they're strategic outcomes. And they're possible when we stop treating leadership as an afterthought. Hey, welcome to the Leaders Podcast with me, Laura McDonald, the leadership coach and mentor. Come with me as I explore the elements of leadership that give leaders like you the power and confidence to make the impact you know you can. I'll be sharing my own experiences, top tips and insights, and talking to some very special guests to share their thoughts and leadership experiences on mindset, influence, change and growth. So let's get right to it. Today we're diving into a topic that's uncomfortable but essential: bad managers. Not the caricatures, but the ones organisations quietly create through culture, promotion and lack of support. We've all seen examples of this. Even if we're not directly impacted, it can be very hard to watch, let alone deal with. But what to be most aware of is we all have the potential to be turned into bad managers, or even show signs of it. And more than that, we all have the potential to turn away from bad management towards excellent leadership. There's a few types of bad management you may have experienced. I know I've seen all of these in my time. The most common in my experience is the micromanager, controlling every detail, sitting over people's shoulders, creating endless reporting measures and stifling innovation and creativity, meaning teams experience a decrease in productivity, lower morale and a loss of autonomy, which all contributes to increased stress and burnout due to lower confidence in their own abilities, disengagement due to a lack of trust, and inevitable high staff turnover. The business now gets stuck firefighting a constant lack of staff, and ideas, change and increasing effectiveness and efficiency for business impact now sit at the bottom of the pile, meaning business doesn't move forward, and reputation and revenue are both directly impacted by that. The second is the absentee boss, the one who's never there, totally invisible physically or psychologically and emotionally unavailable, leaving the team to work out how to lead themselves and unsure of where they should be heading and what their roles are. With all the same consequences as micromanagement, absenteeism also leads to missed development opportunities for all the team, as feedback, mentoring and coaching points are all missed from the day-to-day. So professional growth stops, and team members, especially high performers, will look for those opportunities elsewhere. The other danger is that conflict arises more often and becomes a long-term problem, damaging the culture of the team and organisation, which if it goes on long enough can become impossible to fix. These impacts prevent teams from delivering good customer service, prevent leaders from effective succession planning, and in the end create financial losses for the business, which of course impacts everyone eventually. The third one is the one that can really grind my gears, the credit stealer. One of the most important leadership lessons I've ever been taught was that great leaders stand between their team and higher management when things are going wrong to take accountability and protect their people. But when things are going right, they step out of the way and point higher management to the team directly to give credit where credit is due. Credit stealers have this backwards. They stand between their team and higher management when things are going right, taking credit for ideas, successes and gains, and then they step clearly out of the way when things are going wrong, pointing higher management directly to their team for blame. The most ironic thing about this type of bad management is the person who suffers the most damage is the leader themselves. They're viewed by others as inauthentic, untrustworthy, and not credible, leading to a poor reputation and negative judgments of their character, building a perception of incompetent leadership. It leads to a long-term destructive failure and a distorted perspective that their own contribution to success is larger than it really is. Then there's the nice manager. As far as they're concerned, it's just nicer when everyone gets along. They avoid conflict like the plague, let dysfunction ferment, creating a ticking time bomb that could go off any day, and dampen their team's faith in their ability to credibly and decisively lead the team day to day, let alone in crisis or challenge. This leads to a culture of sweeping everything under the carpet, and with no accountability present, everyone starts treading carefully, worried they'll be the one tripping over the carpet and setting off the bomb underneath. People are so distracted by this that, of course, productivity and effectiveness reduces. Team members will all eventually reach a point where they can't deal with the anxiety that sits under the surface, and the leader will find it more and more difficult to make the tough decisions when they're needed. That pressure builds, and eventually it either all ends with a bang, or everyone runs away before the implosion happens. The thing is, as much as some of these types could grind our gears if we see them, these behaviours are not random. They're often symptoms of deeper organisational issues that, if left unresolved, create more bad management and eventually lead to failure of the business. If you've ever watched a high-potential employee become a disengaged manager, this episode is for you. Here's the truth. Bad managers are often created by bad systems, and we often don't recognise them as bad systems because they're just the way things are done, the traditional practices and beliefs we've come to embrace and run with. But things have significantly moved on since these systems were created, and organisations who hold back from making the necessary changes are going to find themselves struggling to attract, develop and retain good leadership and good teams. One of these systems is the promotional route. We promote based on technical skills, high performance as a team member, long service, rather than leadership readiness. Moving into a leadership role is not a promotion, it's a career change. So unless someone is ready to lead people, facilitate team needs so that the team can do their job effectively, and step up into a more strategic, lead-by-example kind of position and learn how to do that effectively, they're not right for the role. I had a client a couple of years ago who was promoted because they'd been there a long time. They and their organisation agreed that they were technically excellent and that they deserved a pay rise, and the way to achieve that was to promote them into leadership of their team. They then spent a very long time not leading, not dealing with root causes, not addressing problems or conflict, and not developing their team. They instantly took on the role of firefighter, and so their team had to follow when the chaos took hold, and motivational or commitment-building actions and word weren't even present to help the team cope with that. Eventually, they agreed this wasn't what they wanted to do. They realised they were now in a position of influence, something they didn't actually want. They'd become an absent manager, and they left the organisation altogether. Not only was this a loss of leadership, it was a loss of crucial knowledge and skills that could have benefited everybody else. Another system many leadership teams subscribe to when it comes to other leaders in particular is the assumption that, they'll figure it out. We leave leaders completely alone from day one, without any onboarding process into the role, without a mentor to consult when they don't know how to handle something or how to complete a duty, without the coaching and critical feedback they need to develop themselves as a leader, including their style, communication, credibility, flex and adapt skills, and critical thinking, to build the experience they need to lead effectively. And you'll have heard me say this before. We focus on efficiency before effectiveness. We chuck leaders in the deep end and pray they learn to doggy paddle enough to keep their head above water, instead of letting them go down the steps in the shallow end and becoming an effective swimmer with strong skills before moving them up to the other end of the pool. What's most frustrating about this system of they'll figure it out is we've told ourselves it's the truth. It's an evidence-based lesson we've learned, or because someone did it to us and we've survived, that it must work for everybody else. But the truth is, that's not the reason this system took hold. It took hold because, for many reasons, including our own resentment of being chucked in at the deep end, we have not yet put the time or effort in to gaining the effective coaching, mentoring or feedback skills our leaders need to thrive, nor have we put that same time and effort into developing effective leadership induction systems to give them the best start they could have. So instead of giving them what they need to thrive, we've set the bar at survive and deemed it good enough. And the other thoroughly embedded strategy to the great majority of organisations is rewarding short-term wins, control and compliance rather than the collaboration and emotional intelligence that builds individuals, teams, leaders and organisations up. Bad managers are created when they learn that the only thing they really get praised for is hitting targets, which is often achieved by overworking teams or potentially cutting corners. The focus is all on the output, the result, the financial figure, or how quickly we got there. There is very little attention paid to the journey and what less tangible growth and impact was achieved. So team burnout, disengagement, and when we're at risk of losing team members goes unnoticed, or justification is given as to why this isn't the priority right now. Control and compliance systems produce predictable outcomes. So managers who dictate, enforce, and demand obedience with a tight grip on decisions are more reassured by that predictability, but it's costing them dearly. If all decisions are in their control, then there is no one to blame but themselves when it goes wrong, and the team will deny ownership of it because it's the truth. There are no other ideas coming to the table either, so the pressure's now on the leader to come up with them all, and they better be good. And there's no psychological safety in the team. No one can speak up and say when they're struggling, voice an idea in case it might be ridiculed, or feel like they can trust anyone to appreciate the work they're putting in. When I work with leaders, one of the most common questions I ask them to consider is, what damage is being done? Without knowing this, we can't ask for what we need, develop our own habits into ones that serve us and our teams better, or build up credible leadership that will create followers who will help us get to our vision. When we know that systems are a large part of how we've got to the damage, we can start to develop ways to prevent that damage from taking hold with a clear understanding of why it really is so important. I've seen brilliant contributors make a blunder of leadership roles because they were never set up to succeed. And the cost? It's bigger than we think. Let's talk about impact. A lot of it has already been highlighted so far in this episode, but let's go a little deeper to the key words you'll see in action when bad management is allowed to prevail. Let's start with the most serious one, burnout. It's a term widely used and discussed in recent years, and lots of research has started to appear showing how it occurs, why it occurs, and what the impacts may be on the individual, their team, and their organisation. When bad management leads to a lack of clarity and psychological safety, team members are left fumbling around to find out what they need to be doing next. There's no avenue to tell someone when they're struggling. There's no feedback about what constitutes successful outcomes. There's just rising targets and no idea of how to get there. Imagine standing on a treadmill that's constantly throwing random corners in at a second's notice, and there's no indication of when you're allowed to get off. This is what team members with burnout will now be combating every day. That burnout will contribute to a decline in their well-being, psychological presence at work, emotional availability to others, willingness to collaborate, and the effort they put into basics like communicating with others and general teamwork. They're now not sleeping or eating properly. Their mental and physical health is now suffering. They are becoming irritable or withdrawn, and they may have worrying feelings like they aren't good enough at work or that they've not achieved anything. What I do know about most bad managers is they do not intend to cause this kind of harm to another human being, and are generally horrified when they realise that's what's happened. Don't get me wrong, the ignorance of it is not a justification for them to continue being a bad manager. But when supporting a bad manager, understanding that they will most likely have this kind of response when it finally sinks in, allows us to be kinder in supporting them and show them the empathy they will need when the time comes. The other impacts you'll see from bad management is a lack of presenteeism and a high turnover of staff. People will still show up, but they'll be disengaged from the team and the leader, as well as the organisation. The organisation might have had an amazing mission they once felt was completely in line with the impact they wanted to make on the world. But if this is the way it's going to be achieved, they won't stick around. It's not just ground-level teams either. I've seen cases of leadership beginning to leave an organisation because they didn't want to be associated with a peer who was showing up as a bad manager. People leave managers, not companies, and the sooner that's recognised, the sooner we can start to highlight where leadership behaviours and skills need to be developed. Where there's a sudden turnover and all the levers linked to the same manager, that might be an indication that something needs fixing. To make matters worse, innovation stalls when fear replaces trust, which is often the outcome of bad management. Even the nice manager will create this fear, as no one feels like they can critique the situation or suggest what could make things better because everything has to stay all daisies and roses. Someone once asked me if influence is the same as manipulation in leadership. This is the exact point the distinction can be made. Good leaders are able to influence teams so they want to help, want to do a good job, want to support each other. It's about raising everybody up together. Their intention is often quite clear and the teams feel it every day, which builds trust and strong, connected relationships that thrive. Bad managers often act for self-interest, and that will come at the cost of their team. Eventually, what can they do for me may be the only thing on a bad manager's mind, even if it's for the purpose of protecting themselves from a higher power. And manipulation becomes the new game. When that happens, the team feel it too. We all know when someone's being disingenuous, and this is often how manipulation shows up. So as soon as it's visible, the team knows it, and trust is eroded every minute it continues. If the bad manager is a credit stealer or a micromanager, then this distrust will be even more present. Ideas won't get shared because they'll either be stolen from the person who came up with them, or they'll be dismissed before the words "I've had an idea" can come out of their mouth. Fear comes in many shapes and sizes, but no matter where it's coming from or how it's showing up, once present, you're not getting ideas anymore. No ideas equals no progress. No progress equals no relevance. No relevance equals no revenue. No revenue equals no business. All this is leadership debt. It accumulates when we neglect leadership development, and it shows up in metrics, morale, and missed opportunities. So what's the alternative? We need systems that build great managers, not just hope they emerge from somewhere. Well, I'd start at the very beginning of any role, induction. For the most part, this is a system only used to a brand new employee to the company. Yet every person promoted or moved into other roles in your organisation is new to that role, especially when they step into new levels of leadership. Whether it's first line, middle, senior or executive leadership, every step up the ladder needs support. So introduce effective induction processes with the time and space for the person to gain the essential skills, knowledge and understanding of the role they've taken on before they start leading their team. Help them clarify what level they're operating at and how their outlook needs to develop to be successful. For example, be direct with them about moving from technical execution in an entry-level role to execution and oversight in first-line leadership, to strategic translation in middle leadership, to strategic planning in senior leadership, to vision and strategy setting in executive leadership. The same can be explained for their roles in developing people, influencing culture, their level of decision-making, and so on. Having the clarity of our role is vitally important to our success as a leader, so time for that conversation must be made. I highly recommend to every company out there developing an effective induction process for every single role in the organisation, not just the newbies. The second thing we can do is a small focus shift in the feedback we give. When leaders collaborate well, utilise their emotional intelligence to achieve team cohesion, when they encourage idea sharing and development from everyone, when they identify excellent ideas and encourage the team to bring them to life, reward it with praise. Focus your feedback on the journey they took rather than the output. When leaders understand that they can and will be rewarded for behaviours that positively impact the culture, dynamic and effectiveness of the team or organisation, they'll lean into that more and move away from bad management. Rewarding the behaviours that drive longevity, strong culture and impactful teams is far more valuable than rewarding short-term wins that result in high turnover and cutting corners. When we show that the quality of our work is the foundation for building quantity of work, leadership culture and behaviours shift to support that dynamic. And lastly, you wouldn't give a scalpel to a surgeon who'd never attended a single day of training. The lawsuit will be far more expensive than the training cost in more ways than one. Investment in leadership development is crucial to performance improvement, talent retention, and the creation of positive culture. It is far more cost-effective to invest in leadership development than to constantly recruit and train new hires. On average, it's just over £30,000 to recruit and train one single new member of staff. If the hire happened because of a loss due to bad management, you can expect that cost to rise very quickly. A £10,000 leadership development programme to grow 8 thriving leaders who build a sustainable reputation for your organisation and retain talent in your teams is a much better use of your budget. Change frameworks like Lewin's Ice Cube model are invaluable insights leaders can use to develop the right skills and behaviours for success. Lewin's model helps us unfreeze old habits, introduce new leadership behaviours, and refreeze them into culture. We embed human-centric traits like empathy, clarity, and accountability into leadership frameworks. We track progress with structured coaching, feedback loops, and measurable outcomes. This is the foundation of my leadership coaching programme. It's not just about soft skills. It's about strategic transformation. I've worked with organisations where a single coaching intervention shaped the entire leadership culture. When client D began their one-to-one coaching journey with me, they came with self-doubt and imposter syndrome, stepping into their first senior executive role in a brand new company with 2 new team members and the feeling of a lot of expectation on their shoulders. They didn't feel they deserved a seat at the table. They knew they were people-focused but not strategic, and had difficulty with all the impersonal corporate approach, finding it demotivating and unengaging. Their to-do list was endless, and old habits were stopping them delegating effectively to build a strong team standing on their own 2 feet that they wanted. Over the course of our sessions, we explored behavioural and character strengths to lean into as part of their strategy, breaking down tasks, processes and goals to find the barriers that were in their way. Simple tools like the Eisenhower matrix to build positive habits and confidence, their vision for the team, business and their leadership to create alignment. What shifted for client D? Credible, confident, aligned leadership with the belief they deserved a seat at the table. Effective energy and task management strategies they're passing on to others to create deliberate action on goals. A leading by example approach that's shaping the culture of the business, initiating a compelling reputation. A connected and influential relationship with a strong, sustainable team standing on their own 2 feet and growing. In their second year in business, Client D's focus is on developing layers and more leadership within the team to future-proof the culture and figures like the £1.2 million revenue they're now forecasting. This is why I do what I do. Coaching isn't just about insight. It's about transformation that ripples through teams, culture and results. These aren't just stories, they're strategic outcomes, and they're possible when we stop treating leadership as an afterthought. If you're a HR leader, L&D professional or decision maker ready to transform your organisation's leadership culture, I'd love to speak with you. My leadership coaching program is designed to equip managers with structured, evidence-based tools, align leadership behaviours with measurable business outcomes, and build emotionally intelligent, high-impact leaders who drive change. Book a discovery call today using the link in the episode description or in my LinkedIn profile. Let's explore how we can tailor the program to your organisation's needs. Because bad managers aren't born, but great ones can be built. Until next time, everyone.